Welcome to the Great Synagogue. Once again, please turn off your cell phones. Let's not disturb the program, the person sitting next to you. I promise you I will remind you at the end of the evening to turn it back on again. About 6 months ago, we initiated a fair amount of activity in the city of Jerusalem in connection with the problems of Horowitz 18. I think many of you attended the program that we had here in 2 weeks, February 25th at 8:30. You have brochures in front of you. It's something that I think we all owe the memory of our great leaders, the people who are buried there, to make certain that it's recovered, that it's protected, when people go up, they don't have to worry about being attacked. There's been a lot of progress. The city, the government has been quite involved in helping to bring that about, but we need more help. Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayala will speak. Malcolm Holine, one of our directors, the Executive Vice Chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Jewish Organizations, Bougie Herzog, Sigdo Tebli, Yoel Hassan. It will be a very interesting evening, and I think beyond the issue of helping to protect Horowitz 18, you'll find it very, very informative. Last time we had a program here with Caroline Glick, I asked for your support for the Lone Soldier program that we conduct every month. Friday night, Leil Shabbat dinner for some 200 Chayalim on a regular basis. You were very forthcoming. We're okay for a little while. But those of you who had intended to give a check and didn't get around to it, there are envelopes at the back of the synagogue, or just send them in. We need help on that in that area. One of the reasons that these programs are so successful is that we included almost a dozen organizations, community organizations, Amid, OU, Young Israel, all who co-sponsored these programs. Tonight we're happy to add one more organization, the Beit Yisrael Synagogue in Yemin Moshe. They are now also sponsors of this program. If any of you are here, we welcome you. To reciprocate, Ambassador Moshe Sofor will be speaking there next Saturday night. He was Israel's ambassador to India and is now the new president of the Jerusalem Foundation. It promises to be a very interesting evening. You can get the details in our weekly bulletin. I'm so pleased to welcome here tonight a friend of the Great Synagogue, the Honorable Mayor Nir Barkat. But I think after 3 years, the title that we use for these conversations, running the world's most complex city, it must have finally entered your psyche. Now understand how difficult it is to run a city of Yerushalayim. But we're very happy that it's you who is running it. Also to David Horowitz, who has been here for countless programs, both as a speaker, as a moderator. We wish him Hatzlacha with his new communication, his media program, the Times of Israel. When it's finally announced and operating, I'm sure that you all want to read what he has to say. I know he's been missed on the back page of Friday's Jerusalem Post. One of the first organizations that co-sponsored these programs with us was the AACI, the Association of Americans and Canadians in Israel. They've been a wonderful supporter of our programs. We work closely with them in other matters, and it's a great privilege for me to introduce the Executive Director of the AACI, who will introduce the Mayor, David London.
Good evening and Shavua Tov. On behalf of AACI, we welcome you to this wonderful Motzi Shabbat program and our third meeting with Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat. I want to take a moment to thank all the partners of this evening, but especially the Jerusalem Great Synagogue and its chairperson, Asher Shapiro. I want to wish Asher a happy 80th birthday and to bless him that he continues his important work on behalf of the Jerusalem Great Synagogue and Jerusalem. This evening, we are in the lovely Jerusalem Great Synagogue. However, I want to remind you and invite you to visit the vibrant Jerusalem neighborhood of Talpiot, in which ACI's wonderful home, the ACI Dr. Max and Janet Glassman Family Center, is located. We are very proud of our home and the vast array of programs and activities that take place, which is in addition to our wonderful and excellent Aliyah and Klita counseling and assistance. I want to invite you to two special upcoming programs, a goods and services auction, which is really two auctions in one, a Chinese and traditional bidding auction, which will take place on Thursday, February 23rd. And in March, in honor of Women's Health Day, a full International Women's Health Day, a full day on women's health at ACI in March. In addition, ACI has a robust travel program with many trips in Israel as well as overseas. We have an upcoming Jewish heritage tour to the Baltics in May, a June trip to Croatia and Slovenia, as well as our signature cruises with the 7-night cruise to Greece in June and a 14-night grand cruise that highlights 9 ports of call, including Florence, Rome, Sicily, and 6 more ports of call as well. This cruise will take place in October. It's so good to see our good friend David Horowitz, formerly editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. I believe in the near future you'll be hearing, as Asher said, about David's new work in the world of news and media, and I'm sure you'll be greatly pleased to read the Times of Israel. One of the first things that Mayor Barkat did on assuming office was honor ACI at a ceremony at the municipality for its contribution of over $1 million on an ongoing basis to the needy school children of Jerusalem who study at Zionist schools. ACI is proud of its ongoing contributions to Jerusalem's school children. I believe this signifies the mayor's understanding and commitment to Jerusalem's English-speaking population. I want to point out to the mayor that even though we are an Orthodox synagogue, we are all sitting together. I hope that tonight, that among the many subjects that you'll be addressing, you will also address that subject as well. On behalf of the Jerusalem Great Synagogue, ACI, and our many partners, I hope you enjoy tonight's very special evening, and welcome to the Mayor of Jerusalem, Nir Barkat.
Okay, can we hear you okay? Yes, excellent. Shavua Tov, welcome everybody. Thank you, David. Thank you, Asher. I want to add my personal compliment to you on your landmark birthday, Asher, and I've met Esther and all our wonderful wishes. This is, as we've heard, our third such conversation, but it's actually our fourth kind of event here because of the pre-election evening. I don't know how many of you were here for the pre-election. Unforgettable evening, in my opinion. For reasons that we won't return to. This is therefore the fourth such conversation that we had. The logistics of that evening 4 years ago, or 3 and a bit years ago, were quite extraordinary. And then you were elected, and now this is the third year, 3 years plus that you've been in the job. And I have to say, you're looking pretty good for someone who's running the most complex city in the world. Really? Well, thank you. Literally, you're running, by the way, as well. Running the most complex city. How's it going?
Well, actually, I'm pleasantly surprised by the fact that the city is moving in the direction I would like it to move. Naturally, there are challenges. Let me, just before I continue, thank the audience for participating and coming here again tonight. Indeed, I've become a regular here. And from my perspective, I'll be here as long as you accept me, every year. So things are really moving. I've set a goal. My wife tells me probably the best thing that happened to me is that I lost my first election. Because I had time, 5.5 years, to prepare, sharpen the vision, come with a business plan. And once I got elected, I knew and I know what I want to accomplish in terms of culture, tourism, business, education, and other initiatives. So coming well prepared and working with a very wide coalition with wide acceptance, or the Barkat plan prior to the elections is actually part of the coalition agreement. Everyone signed to that. Makes life reasonably easy to manage. And so I'm happy with the fact that the city is moving in the direction I want.
Okay, so we'll talk about the specifics of your plans and things that are going well and things that are, shall we say, more challenging. I just want to, I'm not entirely sure how we could do this logistically. I know Asher and the Synagogue invited people to submit questions in writing, which some did and which I'll get to. But I'll say this, if people, without making too much of a fuss about it, want to ask questions, write them down somehow. If you can get them to this end of the Bekneset, of the hall, to where David and Asher are sitting, I'll try and get to some of them as well, okay? Because the mayor has basically said, it would be a shame not to take burning questions if people have them. But let me start with what I think is the sort of hottest potato issue. It's not a specifically Jerusalem issue, but it's an issue that is playing out in Jerusalem. David London mentioned it in passing in his opening there, the fact that we're sitting together, men and women in an Orthodox synagogue. We seem in Israel, and like I said, quite a lot in Jerusalem, to be in the midst of a new collection of incidents of ultra-Orthodox extremism. Now, the frictions used to be lazily defined as Orthodox secular. Well, it was never Orthodox secular. There were always frictions with the ultra-Orthodox part of the community and the rest of the community in Israel. And I mean, just to put this into context, I think that on the whole in Israel, we did very well in building a first world democracy and at the same time having respect for the religion that sustained us in exile through the centuries. And yet the concern now is that maybe this is breaking down, that maybe we fostered a departure from authentic Orthodox Judaism, where people aren't working for a living, which Maimonides said was the obligation of the parents and so on. First of all, how troubled are you? How extreme do you think the ultra-Orthodox community is in Jerusalem? What steps are you taking to grapple with it and so on?
Well, I think it's important to understand the bigger picture. I'm happy this subject came up because it always was an issue and probably always will remain an issue, that you have some people that prefer gender segregation. It happens in some of the synagogues. So it's an issue that we have to manage wisely, probably for long periods of time. Let me tell you a little bit of what is happening with the ultra-Orthodox community, which I'm really happy with. We did a job fair 5 months ago because we see growth in the demand for getting jobs in the ultra-Orthodox sector. You know how many people showed up to Binyanei Uma? It was a municipal job fair. We did not know how many people to expect. 4,000 people came. 2/3 women, 1/3 men. Applied for 600 jobs that were open there. And what was interesting was the municipality managing it. And we had the deputies, the ultra-Orthodox deputies. It's accepted. There's growth in the number of ultra-Orthodox people going to the army. They were concerned many years ago that if ultra-Orthodox boys go into the army, they come out secular. Well, they now have enough track record to see that whoever enters the army as an ultra-Orthodox leaves the army as an ultra-Orthodox, and secular leaves secular. So the army does not, the way it's managed today, does not affect people's religion. So their fears have decreased. And you see that the ultra-Orthodox leadership is, in my mind, changing mode. That's a very positive thing. But usually good things don't sell newspapers, so not a lot of people get to know the positive trends. With respect to gender separation, I have to admit that we have 31 council members, 12 are ultra-Orthodox. Could you guess how many of them support gender separation, segregation in public areas? None. Not one. There's not one council member in the city of Jerusalem that is supportive and pushing or ask me or anybody in the municipality for gender segregation. There was an incident in Mea Shearim last Sukkot where the Edah Haredit, which are the ultra-Orthodox, quite extreme, they have in their synagogue, which is right next to Mea Shearim Street, they have a big event and tens of thousands of people come. And what they've done, illegally, is try to manage the separation between men and women going into the synagogue to the street level. And because they had so many people, they were concerned about how do they manage the safety of all the people. There was an incident a year and a half ago, and the police told them they're not allowed to do that. And so they decreased the size, but still they were in the public areas. Well, we negotiated with them, and we explained it to them. And since that was last Sukkot, we at least explained to them how to solve the problem. And even with them, I prefer to sit, the police, the municipality, to sit and explain to them what they're not allowed to do. And they're playing ball. And I believe, hopefully, we've solved that specific point problem. There is a problem all across the country with bus segregation. It's a national thing. I'm happy this thing came up because it's illegal and it's wrong. And we should manage it. Manage it meaning saying it's not allowed and make sure that it doesn't continue. But if I have to put this in a little bit bigger perspective, believe me, I have bigger challenges. We have bigger challenges in the city of Jerusalem. Even with the relationship with the ultra-Orthodox, which in my mind are heading north and not south, I think there's lots of respect. I've gained trust of their leadership, and hopefully it's mutual, so that we can actually do many, many things together. The common denominator with them is so much greater. And just bear in mind, if they understand it's illegal, they're not pushing for it, for sure not to impose things on the general public, and hopefully we'll be able to manage it in a proper way.
Okay, that's a very mild and encouraging response. And yet, apart from the incidents you cited, you've had cases where there was a community council election and women were sort of thrown out of the polling station in their sharia. You have incidents of shops that have been putting up mechitza. Members of my own family who had to go to their sharia and I started to worry, can I go there? Even modestly dressed. So maybe tell us a little bit more about your dealings with the people who speak for this community, and are you truly convinced that what are making the headlines are marginal, unrepresentative acts of extremism that you think will be marginalized still further?
The Aida Haradit are 2% of the population of the city of Jerusalem. They're 2%. They don't vote for the government, they don't vote for the municipal elections, they don't have any representations. But 2% of 800,000 people is 16,000 people. So it's not a small group in absolute numbers. And the way to deal with them is through police and the law, and not fear to deal with the situation. I don't see shift that the 2% is becoming 30% or 20%. That's not the case. If anything, I think the rational, vast majority of the ultra-Orthodox communities are not with them on this point, and not with them on other points. When there was, remember a few years back when I was throwing stones at it. The vast majority of the ultra-Orthodox community went against them, big time. So the challenge is to maintain a good relationship with the vast majority of the ultra-Orthodox, which is a huge common denominator, and deal with it. I'm not saying that they're not issues. On the contrary, I think every time we hear something, we have to deal with it with bravely enough to how do you say it?
To condemn it.
To condemn it, and to make sure the police and whoever is responsible to deal with it directly. But again, I think we mustn't get thrown overboard as if though that there's a negative paradigm shift happening. That's not the case.
Didn't you send the wrong impression by firing a member of your coalition, Rachel Azaria, who had complained about the segregated sidewalk issue? I understand that you had a concept of loyalty to the coalition and so on, but wasn't she highlighting something where you should have been on her side of the argument?
I was, and I told her. And indeed, there's no change in my attitude. But imagine we have a coalition, I have a coalition, managing a coalition of 29 to 30 council members out of 31. Can you imagine a minister in the Israeli government taking a lawsuit against his own government? It's the first and last time a member of the government of the municipality of Jerusalem sues the government. You can't do that. It's against the rules. And God forbid if I would have went on with life. Every second day, another member of the and by the way, I had a few cases like this where the friends from Meretz wanted to sue the municipality for something, whatever, neglect. And I told them, you can't do that. Tell me what the challenge is. Let's deal with it together. We are in charge. So if you think we didn't do anything right, tell me what else we should do, and let's deal with the situation. But you can't sue your own government. It doesn't work. So it's a technical fault that if I would have not moved on, I know we would be busy in Jerusalem explaining to the courts why the members of the government are suing the government.
Is the root of the tension, shall we say, is the flaw, or one of the major flaws, the way education works in Israel? And I know that this is not solely your prerogative, but we have essentially segregated educational systems. I don't mean simply men and women. I mean that different communities, different parts of the spectrum of education go to entirely separate school systems. Is that something that you would like to be able to address, or is it something that's just beyond my scale of ability to deal with?
But you're touching on one of the most interesting challenges I think the education system in Israel has. I have a very different philosophy of how to manage the education system, and here's why. In Jerusalem, you have Mamlachti schools, you have Mamlachti Dati. In the middle, you have Mamlachti that act like Mamlachti Dati, like Keshet, and Mamlachti Dati that act like Mamlachti, that's Dro and others. And then you have Chardali, Ahavat Israel and others. And you have such a huge array of different schools that everyone is creating his own different set of rules. And none of them fit the pattern. We have more different that don't fit the pattern than the ones that fit the pattern. Now, to try and impose a philosophy, an education philosophy on Jews, try to do that. It'll never work. So everyone is sure that their way is the best way. And I'm not in a position to tell people what's right and wrong when it comes to Jewish education and other elements of education. I think the right way to do it is expand the horizon and enable everyone to be part of the education system. And put an X price if you take mathematics and English and Hebrew, and Y if you take another subject. Price your subjects and let the schools choose what they want internally. If they take no liba, they get very little amount of money from the government. But supply every kid a table, a classroom, teacher. That is a minimum you have to supply. I wander around. I do 2 schools every week minimum. So I've seen hundreds of schools in Jerusalem already because I decided to hold a portfolio of education myself. It's appalling. It's appalling. If you go to some of the schools, that as if though we have no responsibility over the kids.
But it's the vision you're setting out there, as though we have to sort of extort them to teach core subjects. Do we not have the authority to impose on the school system that they teach core subjects that are essential?
Personally, what I've learned is that if you try to force people to learn something, you get the exactly the opposite effect. My experience is opt them, enable them to learn, and when they don't feel threatened by the power of the law, you get much better results, especially when it deals with education. And I wanted to tell you that lately I see, both in East Jerusalem and in the ultra-Orthodox schools, they optionally pull a lot of things because they understand what's good for them. They understand the best what's good for them. So I'm not part of this group that is panicking over the fact that Liba is not taught in ultra-Orthodox schools. I will opt them, probably a different view than the main traditional view. Opt them and help them catch up big time if they would like after school. By catching up after school, they understand what they want in school. For example, the ultra-Orthodox College of Adina Bar Shalom, she's the daughter of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. She started a college over a decade ago with a few dozen women. Now, this year, she has over 1,000 students, ultra-Orthodox students, 800 women 200 men, and we have to allocate place for her in Jerusalem to scale to 5,000 students. The challenge is now 5,000, today 1,000 students, ultra-Orthodox college, and they get a degree in different subjects, and all of a sudden they are thinking to themselves, why can't we teach some of those subjects earlier in school? So the demand is now going vertically back to the schools, to the high schools, in the Sephardic schools and in other schools that have more flexibility. So again, I think that if we want to be right, you may come with force of law. If you want to be smart, make it a little bit different to get better results.
Okay. Now you mentioned in your previous answer, you gave some numbers there, which are really interesting. So you've got 2% of the city, you say, comes from the Haredi sector. So give us a little more of a sense of the current demographics of Jerusalem. To be political about this, your future hinges on the demographic makeup of the city, I would say. But this is all of our city, and we're all, I think, very interested to know where the numbers are going.
Well, let me give you a very interesting statistics on the number of kids learning the education system. In the term of the predecessor of Briansky, the Mamlachti schools shrunk 12% in absolute numbers. The Mamlachti Dati shrunk 7%.
It's just the state schools and then the state religious.
Yeah. State school and the secular and the national religious schools. I prefer the word Mamlachti than Chiloni. Chiloni in Hebrew means Zar.
Strange.
Yeah, foreign. And I don't feel.
Okay.
Good. Yes, I feel Mamlachti. So
sovereign, regal, statesman-like. Very good.
I own this place as much as anybody else.
That's right.
So when you look at the numbers from the beginning of this term, my term, Mamlachti is up 1%, and Mamlachti Dati is up 3%. Now kids don't stay on their own; they stay with a family. Now that's big changes. From -12 to +1, from -7 to +3. That is big numbers. We see that Jerusalem is becoming more attractive for the Zionist population. We see it also in polls. We see the number of kids. We see the number of jobs, the number of people coming to enjoy our culture and tourism. And we're starting to look at other parameters. But the bottom line is we see a beginning of change. It's early, I think. To stabilize that, I need minimum of another 7 years ahead, if not more. And I'm here to stay for a long time to make sure that this change continues.
There's no turn, right, from Mayor of Jerusalem?
No,
you just keep going and going and going. Yeah. When Margaret Thatcher said, I'm going to go on and on and on, that was when it started to go downhill for us. one term at a time.
2 to 3 terms.
Okay, that's it. We heard it here first. 2 to 3 terms. Okay, good. But you gave us some statistics. Broadly speaking, if you do the breakdown in the city, ultra-Orthodox, modern Orthodox, secular, Arab, how does the 800,000 or so break down?
Well, we are about 33% Muslims in Jerusalem, 2% Christians, 65% Jews, out of which 20% are ultra-Orthodox, and 45% are Zionists. What we call Zionists, which are Mamlachti Dati, and Masorti, which are ones that call themselves Zionists. The ones that serve in the army, that usually live in the same neighborhoods, and etc. So that's the breakdown, and the challenge is how do we manage demographics? In my mind, 2 things have to be done. The first is create jobs and make Jerusalem a very attractive place for the young Zionist population that has left. Create a better education system. We know there are 4 elements that influence negative migration from Jerusalem. The first and by far the number 1 is jobs. If somebody cannot find a qualified job, he leaves. They have no choice. The second is price of housing. We are very dependent on the government for that one. And hopefully after the last events in the summer with Trachtenberg concept. Hopefully we'll be able to push and break through some of our concepts that we've been pushing for a while. Education, which I believe is doing well. If you'd like, I could expand on that in a minute. And general atmosphere. General atmosphere, feeling of this is a city I feel for, I belong to it. We're making progress in 3. Good progress in 3 of those. In price of housing, we're still struggling because of the dependency of the government. So if we push on those 4, you will see that each one of them separately and all 4 parameters together influence migration. Because we don't have to convince the young population of Israel why living in Jerusalem is a good thing. Thank God, 3,000 years of history. The young population, even the ones that leave, 70% of the ones that leave don't want to leave. So we don't have to convince them why to stay. We have to provide them the practicalities, how they can stay in the city of Jerusalem.
So tell us some of the specifics in terms of job creation, things that are changing for the better.
Well, bear with me one more minute. Now, with respect to East Jerusalem, my goal is to improve the quality of life. Improving quality of life directly also influences price of how Yoker Michya. Can you say Yoker Michya? It's not standard. The quality of the price of it. Usually, when quality of life goes up, so do the costs. And I believe that the costs associated with improving quality of life in East Jerusalem mediates growth in a way that can be managed in a smarter way. There's direct correlation between economy and low rates of crime and violence. And also, we know that when people have lots to lose, they play ball. I also know that if the price is high, people don't run fast to build illegally, because if you pay for every building that you develop, it is extremely effective in decreasing illegal housing in Jerusalem. So long term, when you improve quality of life, the city will enjoy this big time on all parts. It's about economy. Improving our economy will help us stabilize and improve the situation Jerusalem is in. Now you asked me about
just briefly some of the job creation programs or successes and so on.
Well, let me show you the strategy. I think the strategy is something that I see how it's starting to work. I met, when I was in opposition, when I had time, Professor Michael Porter from Harvard Business School. He's one of the leading people in the world in competitive strategies. And he's come up with a theory that regions and cities, if they focus on their competitive advantages, they can actually create very nice growth. Coming from the high-tech sector, from the business world, as an entrepreneur, I really like that idea and worked with him 8 years now. He's working with me pro bono. He's a Harvard professor in Boston. And we outlined 3 of the competitive advantages, which we call business clusters. Economic drivers that can help us scale our economy in the city of Jerusalem and create jobs. The first is a very straightforward, simple one. Culture tourism. When you think of Jerusalem as a brand that over 3.5 billion people in the world would like to come and visit and enjoy at least once in their lifetime. I was just at Torino a week and a half ago, and I met a delegation of business people in Torino. They all, the ones that have not been to Jerusalem yet, I asked them, they said, well, I have not yet been to Jerusalem. Of course, they have to come to Jerusalem because I want to make sure they miss out on life if they don't come to Jerusalem. Integrating culture to tourism creates interesting ideas. The marathon that we did last year, after we talked here, I think, in March, brought 10,000 people to the city. We're going to have another one, hopefully more than 10,000 people, next month, March 16th.
And you're running.
Of course, I'll do the half marathon, yes. You're welcome to join me, by the way. Then we have the season of culture, Jerusalem season of culture. We have the Light Festival in the Old City, the Night Festival in the Old City, Balabasta in Machne Yehuda. And you see that we've prepared the opera. We are heavily invested in culture in the following way. First of all, infrastructure. We've created Mazi, the new Mazi building. It's the new Mazi Theater. Hensen Theater, the Hensen building is going to be for culture. It's going to be next to Teatron Yerushalayim. In Menorah, we're investing, big investment to create more culture right in Jar Macha. That's 15,000 square meters of culture. We're investing in expanding tennis stadium to 31,000 seats, so we can bring the Maccabi games as of summer 2013. We're building the hall for the Echad HaPais hall for basketball 20 times a year, but also events for over 100 times a year. That's a hall for 11,000 seats with a roof. All these investments in infrastructure are to enable expansion of business aligned with a vision of bringing more and more people to the city of Jerusalem. Side by side to that, we're also expanded over tripled the investments in cultural institutions in Jerusalem. And we've created doing business in Jerusalem for culture and arts much more attractive. And all of a sudden you see huge numbers. We have this summer triple the amount of events we had 3 summers ago. And so it feeds itself. You will see next month the new tent that we have in the old train station. We actually have 2 tents. One for, have you heard of the Irakerach? This is the city of ice. That we expect to have over 300,000 people in 3 months. There's a new bid that is just now launched to build the new Tachana, the old train station. It's going to be a place for lots of restaurants and some culture, side by side with Zappa and expansion of Khan Theater. And we're actually building 2 cinema cities, one in the entrance of the city and one in the southern part of the city, each with over 16 cinema theaters. So all these investments together are now becoming a real critical mass that enable to scale the culture and enable more and more tourists who come and enjoy the city. So it's part of the vision and the strategy. I have to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government. Prime Minister Netanyahu deeply agrees and understands and bought into the concept, the Porter concept, cluster theory. And just last Jerusalem Day, almost a year ago, we received a very nice package of incentives and capital, 350 million shekels to be deployed in the next 5 to 6 years, which actually help us boost and create tax incentives to boost culture tourism, health life sciences, and outsourcing of professional services. These are the 3 engines that we are pushing. So to summarize this point, it's really, I believe, very intelligent, practical approach of how to do business development in the public sector. It's very well aligned with the government. And we see very good initial results that indeed these markets are expanding and creating halo effect on the rest of the business in the city.
Let me take you to, again, something you mentioned very quickly before, which is East Jerusalem. And I know you spend a fair amount of time in East Jerusalem. And I think I'm most interested really to get your sense of atmosphere there, of attitude to the fact that you are the mayor of a country that claims sovereignty in a part of the city where, as far as I understand, most of them do not want to come under Israeli sovereignty. How do they react to you? What is the mood in that part of the city? Is the city doing what it ought to do? Is it doing right by the residents of East Jerusalem?
Well, I have news for you. And I invite you to Google the Washington Institute. They've been doing polls to get public opinion of the Arab residents of East Jerusalem. And you see very nice growth and satisfaction. The last poll was done last September. It's an independent poll. And compared to November 2010, you see their satisfaction grew from 44% to 56% in 1 year. General satisfaction and quality of life in Jerusalem. The vast majority of the Arabs in Jerusalem prefer to be in the Israeli side. They don't want the city divided. You see nice growth or dissatisfaction went down to 15% from 36% from some of the services in the municipality. And you see that they acknowledge and understand that we care for them. And I want to tell you some of the things we're doing in East Jerusalem. It took us time to figure out how to boost and catch up with buildings of schools, classrooms in East Jerusalem. The shortage is about 1,000 classrooms in East Jerusalem and about 1,000 classrooms for the Old Orthodox community in Jerusalem. And that's the inheritance that we see. Now, 1,000 classrooms are not, the need does not come in a day. So what we decided to do is to take responsibility. I think I shared with you the last time I was here that the word accountability does not translate to Hebrew. And when I asked who's in charge of building all these classrooms, everyone looks at each other and say, they are. The municipality didn't know how to deal with this and enrolled the challenge to the school principals. How does the school principal know how to build a school? And so usually you had decades of schools that were built the wrong way, they did not meet the standards, the municipality was not accountable, and we're paying the price, a big price today. So what I brought is a little bit of accountability to the system. Today we have 300 classrooms in different phases of being built and approved and funded by the government and the municipality. What we've done, and it took time, because you have to allocate the land, you have to take it, you have to bring in, by outsourcing, because this municipality doesn't have the tools to start planning and manage huge amount of new buildings. The city did not know how to do that. Today I feel comfortable that not only that we're pushing these classrooms into the pipeline, but indeed you see results. We have given each neighborhood an aerial photo of where we're building, what we're building, when we're building. So those 300 classrooms are in matrix, and we've shown this to the public so that we can be accountable to delivering these schools on time. Plus, we're building roads. 50 million shekels worth of roads a year. That's our plan with the government of Israel. It's matching funds with the municipality and the government. That's big numbers. We're going to do 50 million every year. We've done 50 last year. We will do 50 this year, and hopefully in the next 5 years. And that's only for, these are not the sort of what we call vertical streets. These are not the long streets like we're building in the north, and the Kvish Amerikai, the American Road in the southeast, and a couple of other. So all in all, the next 5 years, we're probably going to be investing over 500 million shekels worth of investments just in building roads in East Jerusalem. As important, I visit many schools, and we're building local leadership in East Jerusalem the way we're building everywhere else with the Minyan Kehilati, the community councils. And the community councils of East Jerusalem are starting to gain confidence. And you see that indeed we become an address. They understand that when we say we will do something, we deliver. And getting that kind of relationship with them, I believe, is very strategic for maintaining a united city and making sure they feel that neglect is part of the past. I think the neglect we had damaged the unity of the city in the world. When we claim that the city is united and we don't demonstrate that we know how to deal with all the residents, it hurts us. And when we say that the city is a united city and fulfill it and work hard and make sure that we deal with all the residents, I believe we'll score a lot of points and indeed actually unite the city much stronger.
It's very interesting, and just to follow up on that a little bit, there are nonetheless, and maybe this is a relatively isolated case, that you have parts of Jerusalem that are actually on the other side of the security barrier. I'm thinking of the Calandia crossing, for example. Do you worry that if the whole sort of unilateral statehood gambit Gallus pace again from the Palestinians? Do you worry about the potential of quote-unquote non-violent protest turning into something really problematic for the city? Lots of people marching, challenging the capacity of the authorities to maintain calm without resort to violence, without a deterioration into violence. Are you worried about that?
Well, they say that in the Middle East it's hard to predict the past. So I'm not sure I'm willing to predict what can happen. But the strategy must be improve the quality of life of the residents of Jerusalem. Improve the quality of life, improve their feeling in the city, make sure that they have a lot to lose from quality of life in Jerusalem. And as long as that continues, and that trend goes north, I believe that the rationale for any kind of violence within the residents of Jerusalem is not going up, it's going down. From the sources I have, and the police and other security forces, this strategy has merit, and we do see decrease in tension. You also see less violence. I believe things are connected. And so whatever can happen from the other side, I don't know. But we should prepare for every, God forbid, any kind of attack.
I think you used you did tell me accountability joke last time. The Hebrew word, of course, achrayut, it's no responsibility-ness. I always tell that joke.
Yeah, but nobody knows what it is.
I'm certainly used to telling it. But I think you used it in the context of the light red. I think you said, I inherited the system, and I said, who's in charge? And they said, he is. So I have to ask you about the light red. First of all, well, the light red actually started since we last spoke here, which is a wonderful and long overdue achievement. Okay, so a little bit of applause. However, of course, no good thing comes without all sorts of negative consequences, like the fact that the wonderful shuk, which you rightly mentioned as being, those of you who haven't been to the shuk on a Thursday evening, for example, you should go. It is the hottest spot in the city. The consequence of the light rail, of course, all the buses are going up on Ripper Street, or rather are stopping on Ripper Street and staying on Ripper Street. I mean, that is ridiculous. So what can you do about that, Mr. Mayor? It's not good enough.
Well, I think that the challenge of getting everyone to sit on the table and define milestones and get accomplishments done proves itself. It's already over 2.5 years. It took me about half a year to make sure people sit down and change their mode from blaming each other to problem solving. I also remember about a year ago, I pushed the Israeli government, the transportation ministry, to start working. It reminds me of a joke that they once came to the Minister of Finance in Israel, Sapir, and they asked him, what do you think of moving to 5-day working day? And he said, let's start with 1 day, move to 2 days, and then and the train was not running. They explained to me that if the service is not perfect, let's not start, because it may have a negative effect on people. And then they won't want to ride the train. And I said what I said. I don't want to say it in English. It's not nice. But I said that's the wrong approach. The approach is let's start with 1 day and move to 2 days. Let's start slow, get people on the train, and slowly but gradually converge and stabilize the system. God forbid, could you think what would have happened in the city if this train still would not have taken passengers? Because it's still not perfect. So we started off, it took 90 minutes from side to side. We said that until it takes less than 10 minutes from train to train, we will not change the routes of the buses on the southern part of the city. We are now, last week, are down under 50 minutes from side to side. 48 minutes from side to side. And our intention is to get to about 43 minutes and stabilize the system. So there are some systems that are still not stable. We had problems with aligning it with the buses, and we had some challenges on the system. The system still does not know how to work when there's a delay. The delay recovery is not as good as we would like. But it's getting better from week to week. And I feel that and we're always going to have some challenges in the train, I have no doubt. But I feel comfortable that it's a learning system, and indeed, we will get better by the week. I could have taken the approach of fighting the government and explaining to the government why we've been paying such a heavy public price. But if you fight the government, you don't get their backup. Today, when we come up with a problem that we believe needs addressing, the contract that on the train is about 10 years old. And naturally, it doesn't deal with all the challenges. So today, because we've got goodwill with the government, we can really influence them and get them to help us. And that good relationship is around how to do service, how to do better service to the residents. And I do think it's the proper approach. And sometimes people, complain, and they're true, and they're right. We listen to the complaint, we analyze it, we seek measures for how to fix it. And if it's a problem, that most of the problems we know how to fix. What that bought us, by the way, let me share with you some of the next step. We've converged rather than just do one and that's it. We're now building the next two lines. The next line, the first line, by the way, is called the red line. We're now working, you probably see in Kiryat Yovel, we're going towards Hadassah in two phases. One phase is going to be to Tzomet Oa, and in parallel, we're trying to see the next phase will be how to get to Hadassah. The train to Hadassah is very important for business development and for Hadassah itself. On the other side, we're starting to work on Ve'akov. The next line is the green line, different than what people talk about. The green train line will start, hopefully, well, right now the plan is from Har HaTzofim, but what we want to do, and I'll push for it, is start at Har HaZeitim, to go through Har HaTzofim, to go through Ramat Eshkol, to the central bus station, and from there go to the museum, the new museums, the Knesset, the Hebrew U, and go down to Teddy Stadium, and to go down to the new Chalapais. And that is a huge, important artery for life in the city of Jerusalem. The blue line will start in the southern part of the city, in Gilo, will connect to the arena in Teddy Stadium, go through next to Park HaMasila, and up Keren Yesod, and eventually connect to Ramot. These two lines of train connected with the red line are strategic for the city. Now we've already been approved 230 million shekels to plan those lines. We're a year into planning. I did not wait to see the results of the red line. So the plan we have with the Israeli government, with the Minister of Asar Katz, which we should all thank him for a huge investment in the city of Jerusalem. The plan in the next 5 years is 7 billion shekels investments in Jerusalem. They would have not invested these numbers if they did not believe that we could accomplish and execute and bring, to air this plan. And we have a very good relationship with them. And now that they see that we are together on the same side and not trying to push accountability on each other, it enables us to really focus on work. And I do strongly believe that this plan, alongside of what I've told you earlier about the culture, tourism, and infrastructure investments we're making, you will see a different city in 10 years from now. Very, very different city.
Just briefly, on the train, you're talking about those two lines in 5 to 10 years, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, some of it is in 5 years. Hopefully the green line, we will start seeing parts of it operate within 5 years, plus minus. I don't want to commit to a number, but that's the goal. And the blue line we'll probably see somewhere in the next 5 years.
And the Agrippa's re-busing
Okay, so
we thought I was going to I understood you're basically saying when the light rail is speeding across the city, then you start realizing the bus routes.
Exactly. So with Agrippa's, because the main artery, Yafo, was blocked, everything had to, the network of buses had to go through a bypass, and it was painful. I know it's extremely painful. We had about 90 buses an hour. Before the change, we had about 25, less than 30 buses in rush hour. We went up to 90. We're back to 60. And when we finish the next phase in the northern part of the city, then we will go back to less than 30. So I believe we're going to normal probably in the next in the next few months when we finish the next change, the next big change in the northern part of the city, and Agrippas will hopefully return to what it was before. You should know that from the initial tests we've made, we've aggregated the number of people going to buses and trains. And we see growth in the number of people using public transportation in the southern part of the city since we made the change. So you should, if this indeed, we are now 60 to 70,000 passengers a day, it could be, we're checking travels, 60 to 70 travels a day. Some of the people can go twice. That is big numbers. These are big numbers, and we believe that when we finalize everything, it may go up to maybe even 100,000 people.
Okay, I want to, since you very kindly invited people to submit some questions in writing, and some were actually sent to me before, I want to whiz through a few of the things that people raised. In a way, I think I'll be doing you a favour in that I'm bringing them to the mayor's attention. I'm not sure you're going to say, oh, I can fix that tomorrow, but people are complaining about the sidewalks in Rehavia. They're not happy about tents in Gansaka. This person lives on, I don't know if it's signed, forgive me, lives on Rehov Keren Kayemet. The sidewalks are treacherous, so there's complaints about sidewalks. There's somebody who's complaining about garbage bins blocking the sidewalk. So we've got a lot of sidewalk issues, and this is people's genuine concerns here. A dangerous and illegal bicycle path in French Hill. I promise you I'll let you respond to all of these in a second. Here's a good one for this audience. It seems that English language and Anglos are not considered relevant in Jerusalem, as well as the rest of the country. When we try to reach many organizations on the phone, the options are 1, Hebrew, 2, Russian, 3, Arabic. English is not an option. Okay. How can we change this? And let me just see if there's... deal with all of those, if you like. You can just say, okay, David, I've made notes and I'll come back to them, or you can say whatever you want to say.
Welcome to my office. My office receives 1,200 complaints a month. The municipality receives 750,000 complaints a year.
That's 1 per person per year.
And the challenge in dealing with all these issues is actually to manage the municipality different. I have to say that I'm very proud of the changes that I was able to bring into the municipality, the philosophy of management. In prior 2 terms, I don't know how it was with Teddy, and when Teddy was mayor, but in prior 2 terms, the city was managed similar to the Israeli government, meaning the mayor, the elected officials, the deputies, and the portfolio holders, and the organization. It's the wrong way. The right way to do it is the mayor, the managing director of the municipality, and the professional team, where the portfolio holders are like board members. They don't get involved the day to day. They don't know how to manage. I don't expect the elected officials to be managers. This change created some friction initially because the old elected officials wanted to manage, and I said, no, we're going to do it through the professional team. Second thing we introduced to the professional team is objectives and goals, and we are now working. I meet them quarterly. I meet all the department heads every quarter. Third quarter, we develop the plans for next year. Fourth quarter, we finalize the plan and the budget. First quarter, we review the last year. And second quarter, we think out of the box. And this ritual where we sit every quarter and also check where are we in reaching the goals and the plans that we have. This kind of new DNA works very well. And I feel that the professional team is becoming much, much more professional. So what we also do is, in the past, when you used to complain to the municipality, 10 to 15% of the times there was a return call. Today there's 95% return call to anyone that complains. And I sit deeply on the database and on the complaints, sort them out, sit down, and really try and better understand how they're sorted out and how the departments react. And when we sit on a quarterly basis with the different departments, we sit with the challenges, we sit with what the public said, what the complaints are, where the gaps are. Almost by definition, Jews know very well how to complain, and I have no problem with the complaints. The challenge is how do we deal with them and how do we make sure we give a response. Do you know the return response, when we give 95%, I also monitor to see how many complain again, second time. 7%. 7% return complaints. So now, naturally, if there's a pedestrian, if it's a big fix, then it goes into the long-term plans. If it's a small fix, there's a budget for small fixes. So we can't actually finish everything in 1 year. But I'm quite happy with the system that we outlined to deal with the challenges. Now, after I've said all that, I'll look into these things and ask the professional.
Okay, and the questions that I didn't get to put publicly to the mayor, I'll give you and you can have your department take a look. Just the last couple of questions, because I think we're heading towards the end of our time. I didn't ask you, although you mentioned it, you talked of the 4 factors that are so central to population and demographics in the city, and you mentioned the housing, you've got problems with housing, and that's maybe partly central government. I mean, when we were here a year ago, we talked about the Ramat Shlomo incident, and although that was already a year old then, but it's 2 years now since the whole big row when Vice President Biden visited. Is it the fact that it's become much harder to build over the traditional Green Line in Jerusalem since that Biden visit? Is the scrutiny more acute? Is the central government partnering you in a positive direction or holding you back? What's going on exactly?
Well, I think first of all, it's very noticeable that the world in this region is very busy with itself. The Syrians are busy with themselves, the Egyptians are busy with themselves. So I think the world, if only just over a year ago, the problem in Jerusalem, and when this will be fixed, the whole world, everything will be fine, well, people realize that's not the case. And so the region has so many challenges that I think the world has perspective, a little bit of different perspective of what is happening in our city and in our country. The government has released more places to bid. Hopefully, we are seeing more and more projects in the pipeline. So I am optimistic that we will indeed be able to build a little bit more. There's also a very clear message I send to the world. And when I get challenged, and it happens practically on a weekly basis, when the world talks about freezing in Jerusalem, I ask them, what do you exactly mean by freezing? We're building classrooms in East Jerusalem, 300 classrooms. Do you think we should freeze building classrooms for Arab residents in Jerusalem? Or do you think we should freeze everything? For Christians, for Muslims, for Jews, just freeze around the city? Or God forbid, does anybody actually request me as mayor of Jerusalem or the Israeli government to ask somebody's religion before we give him a license? That's illegal in Israeli law. If I'm not mistaken, it's illegal under any constitution and law in any reasonable country. And when I ask them this question, they usually don't come back because they understand that they have triple standards. They're requesting something from us. They would never, ever ask for a mayor of Torino. I was in Torino a week and a half ago. I asked them, in the group, I said, does the mayor of Torino, does anybody in his wildest dream think that the mayor of Torino should ask somebody's religion before we give him the license? And so usually they just don't come back. And I'm extremely aggressive on this point. So as long as somebody wants to build a building in Jerusalem, may they be Jewish, or Muslim or Christian, if they want to build legally, I will give them a permit. If they're Jews that want to live anywhere in the city, in Silwan, anywhere in the city, as long as they want to build and build legally, they will get a permit. And by the way, when the Israeli government, thank you. And when the Israeli government bids the land, it also is not allowed to ask the bidders what their religion is. It turns out that the new bids in Hamat Shlomo, I anticipate that they will be bought by Jewish entrepreneurs because the people that want to live there are Jews. But the law does not allow the Israeli government or the mayor of Jerusalem to discriminate. So, having said all that, I think that we're pushing for more and more new building.
The Ramat Shlomo neighborhood, for example, that was the core of the bus stop required. It was like 12 or 1,600 homes. What's 2 years on? What's the
it's in the pipe. It's in the pipe.
It's not being built, right?
Well, usually that's not because of that. It's because some of these processes take their time. Usually takes, for all the legal procedures and processes, anywhere between 5 to 10 years. That's because you're starting from zero. You have to create a new taba, and then you have to enroll the plans, and then the small plans, and then you take it to court by people to complain they don't want it. And the procedures anywhere in the city, probably in the country, is the same. It takes its time. What's in the pipes?
What's the Silwan, which again was a big centerpiece for you, the desire to redevelop Silwan, which required or which involved radical intervention, which you wanted to get going with and weren't able to.
Silwan is a nice case study. Silwan, the upper side of Silwan, it's Taba 18,001. There's 657 buildings. Did I share with you this last time? Do you know how many have a license?
Yeah.
6. 6 have a license. That's 1%. 7 are in the process of creating a license. 72 have a legal case with the municipality, which is 12%. The other 88% are naturally illegal. We don't have any files on them. From the 72 files, 34 have they've finished all the court cases and they should be taken down by the residents. And guess how many of the 34 houses were taken down by the residents? 0. Now I asked myself when I arrived at looking at Silwan, where's the strategy? What's going on? 88% have no files. 99 of them are illegal. You're allowed to build 2 stories. 50% are over 2 stories. How do you know? So I had 2 bad options. The first bad option is to continue being an ostrich, do nothing, complain here, complain there, but strategically not deal with the situation. The second bad option is to take 651 structures to court. I'll give you the extrapolation. In East Jerusalem, we have about over 10,000 apartments that are not registered, and over 20,000 with the Avirot Bniya. Okay, so we have 30 to 40,000 structures. Do you think it's wise to bring 30, 40,000 cases to court? That's a bad option. So what I decided to do, for the benefit of the residents and for the benefit of being sovereign and taking responsibility and accountability on the situation, is press the restart button and start rezoning neighborhood after neighborhood. And we did the rezoning of Silwan. We enabled up to 4 stories. We looked at we overlaid the old law, the old taba, with the reality. And figured out how can we create less friction, not a lot of friction, less friction with the new law, with the new taba. And that plan I brought to the municipality. Now in our coalition we have Meretz, and we have Mafdal, and we have ultra-Orthodox and everything in between. How many people do you think objected to the plan? Not one. Not one. It was some abstain because they're not sure, but not one objection of the municipality. This is a plan that is mainstream. The goal is to improve quality of life, to register, enable registry and permits of 95% of the homes. There are violations. Some of them are 21, 22 of the houses are over 4 stories. Then we'll have to deal with them. But generally, it's the most reasonable way of how to become Ribon in Yerushalayim, in neighborhoods that have been neglected, not agree with the situation and understand we have to fix it. It takes its time, but I believe that even there we're in the right direction. And hopefully in the future, we'll be able to pass it in the government and with the residents.
I know actually that's why that one asked one very quite final question, which was actually mailed in ahead from our friend Toby Willick, who asks, when are you planning for the 45th anniversary celebrations of Jerusalem next year?
We're still planning. We don't have any, we're open for good ideas. But I think that the best celebration we can have is to continue the positive trend in Jerusalem and make sure that the city becomes more attractive and we're building on the young population. I have to tell you one more thing, if we could. I'm an optimistic guy. I mean, entrepreneurs usually are very optimistic. But I do see how the city is changing. And I do see that the plans that we've laid out are slowly and gradually moving in the right direction. And I'm building on the young population. I want to tell you that the young population are taking responsibility. There are new communities, there's new teachers and principals, there's a new wave of very patriotic young people coming into the city and taking responsibility. And if we can make them share responsibility and feel for our city, I believe we'll be able to boost positive change in the city. I'm very optimistic and I'd like to see you next year here in Beit Knesset. Thank you.
You said ahead of time, nothing that you should ask me anything you want, and I think we covered a lot of ground. Thank you very much. See you next year.
Mayor Barkat, we want to confirm that for your next 2 terms, we'll continue these programs annually, running the most complex city in the world. And David, as usual, thank you for hosting such an interesting discussion. We did receive additional questions. I will give them to His Honor the Mayor, and based on what he told us, I'm sure that you'll get responses to these questions. Remember to turn your telephones on. Hope to see you in 2 weeks for the Hires 18 program. Be careful going out. Shavua Tov.
You're not going? Okay.
I'll be in touch with you, okay?
How are you?
I'll be in touch with you. When I cross the hotel.
All the very best.
I'll see you later.
Culture.
Does he need a dentist?
How are you? It was a good talk. It was a very, very good talk.
Yeah, it's political.
What we do is we video the program tonight, and then people who want to donate, they get the video and they donate it to the lone soldiers.
I wish we could put the video online so everybody can see it.
Okay, shkoyach, you're doing a very, very good job. Is it going well, the whole program?
It's getting along, yes.
That's wonderful. Big shkoyach.